Okay, so you know when you make like a partial payment on something and you get those payment reminders, and it's like, wait a minute, I thought I already paid this thing, but
Exactly.
you still owe money, and it's so confusing. For
Yeah.
businesses, that can be a real problem.
Yeah.
They're trying to track down these partial balances,
Yeah, absolutely.
and it can be a real time
Definitely.
suck.
Huge. Yeah. And the material you shared actually had some really good insight into the exact problem.
Oh, yeah.
And it features a functional consultant solutions expert named Manisha Sharma.
Yeah.
And she's really focused on building better business systems.
Nice.
And the specific challenge she was trying to solve was how to set up a system that would automatically notify customers
Yeah.
who made a partial payment, but in a really clear way.
Okay.
So it's separate from those regular payment confirmations and stuff like that.
So that everybody knows exactly how much they owe.
Exactly. It's all about transparency and communication.
So how did Manisha and her team go about solving this? Like, what was their initial approach?
Well, their first step was to develop something called a generic inquiry, or GI.
What is a generic inquiry?
Think of it like a custom report builder within their system.
Okay.
And they designed this GI to pull in all the details about an invoice
Okay.
and any payments that have been applied.
Right.
And they specifically wanted it to pinpoint those invoices that still had an outstanding balance even after a partial payment had been made.
Okay.
Then they linked this to a business event,
Okay.
which is basically an automated trigger
Gotcha.
to send out an email notification when this exact scenario happened.
Okay, so if there was a partial payment and there was still a balance left, then it would trigger this notification.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So what happened?
World implementation often throws you a curveball.
For sure.
The system, for whatever reason, it wasn't consistently sending out those partial payment notifications like they had planned.
And that probably happens more than
Oh,
people realize, I bet.
yeah. It's a good reminder that you got to test and refine these systems
Yeah.
before you roll them out.
So what was the fix? How'd they finally figure out what was going wrong?
So it turns out it was a really small detail within that generic inquiry setup.
Okay.
There was a checkbox labeled invoice release to one,
Okay.
and this little checkbox had to be configured just right.
Interesting.
And this was the key to making sure that only those specific invoices,
Was it needed the notification?
exactly the ones that had both a partial payment and a remaining balance,
Right.
those were the only ones that would trigger the notification process.
Okay, so it was kind of like a filter to make sure they weren't sending out a bunch of...
Yeah. It's a great example of how these tiny details can really make a big difference when you're working with these complex systems.
Yeah, so this GI, it was pulling info from a lot of different parts of their system, right? What kind of data were they looking at to make this work?
So to get the complete picture, the GI was pulling in data from a few key areas.
Okay.
The AR invoice table, which has all the info about the original invoices.
Gotcha.
The AR adjust to table, which tracks any adjustments or credits applied.
Okay.
The AR payment table with all the details of payments received. And the AR contact table so the system knows who to email.
Okay.
It's all interconnected.
And it's important to make sure they weren't sending emails to people who didn't need them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They didn't want to clog up anyone's inbox with unnecessary messages.
Yeah, totally.
So they set a condition within the GI that only those invoices that had that AR payment release status would trigger a notification.
Which basically means a partial payment was made,
Right.
and there's still money outstanding.
Precisely.
So that's how they made sure only the right people got the notification.
Yep.
So then once they have that all set up, then they can start automating this whole process.
Exactly. And the way they did that was by configuring the business event to send out the notification email automatically.
Okay.
But they had it set up to send it out 24 hours after a partial payment was recorded.
Oh, that's smart. So they had a little buffer.
Yeah, it gives them a little bit of breathing room just in case there's any immediate follow-up or internal adjustments that need to happen
Right.
before the customer gets the email.
Yeah. That makes it time to look into a solution like this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And there are experts out there like Manisha's team at Tiana Solutions
Oh, yeah.
who specialize in building these kinds of systems.
It can really help.
They can.
So think about how much time and energy you could save if you could just automate this whole process.
Yeah, and when customers clearly understand their balances, it usually leads to faster payments and happier customers all around.
That's a win-win.
Absolutely. So, considering all the benefits, what's one thing you could do today to improve communication with your customers?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah,
That's something to think about.
definitely.
All right. Well, thanks for that deep dive. That was really insightful.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's always a pleasure.
Likewise.
All right. We'll see you next time.